Hey everybody, it's JW from Sober Militia podcast and blog. I am joined here today with Bobby C and JT, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the differences in how we can approach sobriety and recovery, and whether we need to follow traditional programming formats or if we can make up our own. Why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves? Bobby, you want to go ahead and start?
Hello to the listeners. This is Bobby C, a friend in recovery and beyond. You could catch up with me on Facebook at Anonymous Addictions and at My Truth About AA and the same. So if you want to tune in and maybe get some other little feedback on different things, but yeah, that's about it. How about you, JT?
First of all, I appreciate you guys having me on. My name's JT, and I am the host of the Consequence of Habit podcast. You can find me on Instagram under Consequence of Habit. I'm on Facebook, but not much. But Instagram and then all the episodes you can find on Spotify, Apple, any of the big YouTube, any of the big podcast platforms.
Yeah, and Sober Militia is done through Xstep Writing, and same thing. I'm on basically at Xstep Writing on any of the platforms, and my podcast can be found through my website, which is xstepwriting.com. So one of the things, Bobby and I have been talking a lot, JT, about all the different aspects of things that we go through in sobriety. When we first start, when we get further along into it, we've done some talks about different core beliefs that can negatively affect our success in sobriety. We've talked about some of the benefits. We just, have talked a lot about different ideas around sobriety. And one of the things that came up was about the idea of programs and, how important or necessary they are. And if we want to lean away from programs, is that okay? And can we create our own programs? And so we've been playing around with this idea a little bit. And one of the reasons it came up is, Bobby's been in sobriety, I think 36 years now. And I'm brand new. So we're, vast differences in the spectrum here. And what he liked about my experience is the fact that I went into it with no prior knowledge of anything. I just kind of did it and just found my own way, with the help of course, talking to people along the way. But I didn't have any preconceived notions about what it was going to look like. And he thought that was kind of a neat way, because I think, what do you say, Bobby? You always say untainted. And I think he's right. I think that's been one of the reasons it's been so successful for me. And I've been kind of playing with this term of, calling it easy sobriety and whether or not that's a real thing. And I've gotten a lot of pushback from it. But from my experience, it has been. And so I'm like, well, if it has been for me, why can't it be for others? And so we've gotten into this whole idea about, what does that look like? How does a person go into sobriety and, create their own program? And what would that look like? Yeah. And so that's kind of what today was about. And so what I would ask you guys is, looking back at your own sobriety, whether it was, this time where it's been successful or other times, do you feel like there was a form of, deprogramming, if you will, or, getting away from the normal traditional side of recovery in order to be successful? And what did that look like?
Personally speaking, this is actually a really timely question for me, just because we're in a time when during the quarantine where people just weren't doing near as many meetings, or if they were, it was through video. And to me, that just wasn't quite the same. So my sobriety leaned fairly heavy on a 12-step program in the beginning. For me, that was super important. And I think the reason it's individual to everybody is what is the reason that you're doing whatever it is you're doing, whatever form of escape that is. Right. And I had and still have some issues that that I like to escape from, and that became my default mode for a very long time. So I'm 44 now. I was I'm about a year and a half in now of sobriety. And I still have to fight that constant, I call it my eject button, my nightly eject button of just being able to get out of my own head. And so for me, the program really is super, super helpful. I don't do it quite the same as some others. I didn't do 90 days. I don't go near as much as a lot of people in the program would suggest that I do go. And I have found a lot of resources outside of the rooms as well that I find very beneficial. But that's my quick take on it.
Okay.
What's your look on it?
Very good. That's very, very interesting. I just want to give I always give this disclaimer to the viewers that this is Bobby C's opinion, my beliefs, my ideas, my reality, what I've come and evolved through. I'm not trying to force anybody's to do anything. You do your own deal. I'm just here to shed some light on some things that I experienced. I believe personally that this thing called life experience is good and bad, and we all have the same time, which is right now. So I'd like to just get that off to the mark, because I don't believe that we have any different sobriety. Us three are on here right this moment. We all have the same time. I don't see anybody more unique or less unique than anyone else. I don't put anybody on pedestals or take them off of pedestals. I believe we're all on the same level. So for the listener, I just like to make that shout out to that. I really like that because my whole thing is I'd like to see how many people out there are, because actually this is what I believe. I believe everybody in any specific program is doing it their own way anyhow. I believe people just assume that they're not responsible and give credit to somebody that is pointing to the way. They're just like, I'm helping people point to the way of something. I'm helping somebody maybe. When we talk, we're trying to inspire somebody, which means in spirit, trying to inspire somebody, maybe to take a different direction. Me personally, I evolved, and I believe we're all going to evolve. I'll see John in another year from now. I'll see JT in another year from now, and I'll talk to you, and you will be two different guys. You're going to be somewhere else, and that's the beauty of this thing. As long as we stay on a path, a journey of uncovering, recovering, and discovering things about life, we're going to grow. When we stop, maybe we stop and we decide not to grow anymore, but that's okay. There's no big deal. Me, I'm evolving. I was lucky. I was very fortunate. In the beginning, I didn't have anyone. They call them sponsors in Alcoholics Anonymous. I considered him a friend. I didn't like this word from the beginning. So I got this friend, and he became a friend of mine. And he never pushed anything down my throat. He never forced me to do anything, And I didn't go to a step meeting for a year. So right off the bat, I proved the whole system wrong, that I didn't need to have 12 steps to stay sober. Okay. I used to go to meetings. I used to take vacations throughout all my sobriety. Take vacations for a year or two. Not a year or two, a week or two. Come back. I didn't drink because I didn't want to. I'd come back to a meeting. Then I put another little notch in my thinking, my personal little box, and said, you know what? That's not true for everybody. Everybody doesn't need meetings every day. Okay, some people do, some people don't. So I kept on. In the beginning, I was making it my own. Just like JT was sharing. He kind of does this and does that, and he believes some things about this, and he believes some things about that. And I agree that, this new thing that happened to us gave us a freedom to be able to go in and check other things out. Smart recovery, the freedom model, harm reduction, I started checking out all kinds of different things like recovery dharma, right? Smart recovery. I became a smart recovery facilitator while I was in quarantine, and started a group before that, So it gave me an opportunity to check other things out. And what I'm finding is these things have a lot in common, but we create our own pathway, our own destiny, and that's what we're doing right here. So you guys are living. You guys validate everything that I think. So it's validating truth, what I believe, And I'm not here to knock anybody, but I'm here to tell the truth, what I found out. I'm not here to lie, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite either. So some things, when I do talk, I tell my experience and my truth, and it might not be somebody else's. But I went on a little too long. I'm sorry about that. Back to you, John.
That's all right. Yeah, I think our own personal experiences are a big part of this whole thing, right? And they are going to be different. And so, we all understand that this is not a one-size-fits-all situation, and it never will be. But I think that, there are some maybe consistent ideals across all of them, right? That may be true. And there may be some things across all of them that may not be as helpful, And so one of the questions I have, and remember, I'm coming at this from a point of view that I never saw a program. I have no idea what really goes on in those meetings and stuff. I've heard a lot about it now since I've been involved in talking to people, but I don't have the personal experience, So I would say, looking at all the different things we've come across over the years, what would you guys say are the, something that would be consistent across most of the different kind of programs and ideas you've seen or heard about or been a part of, that would be the most important? What would be something that you think that you would pass on to somebody? It's like, hey, it doesn't matter what avenue you take. This is something you want to hold on to or put some time into. Do you guys have some thoughts? And I have my own, but I'll let you guys talk first and kind of see where you come from, and I'll add to it from there. JT, you have any thoughts on that?
I do. Well, first off, before I answer that, I'll tell you what I appreciate about. It doesn't have to. I don't care what program you're in.
Exactly.
12 step. What I appreciate is that have admitted to a problem. And for myself, if I'm left to my own head, sometimes it doesn't always benefit me. My way of thinking isn't always the best. So the rooms gave an opportunity to bounce things off people. There's a group of people with the same goal in mind, and that's to live a healthy lifestyle and separate themselves from not just drink, but to start figuring out some of the reasons that they were even doing what they're doing in the first place. So I appreciate that very much. And I also got into Stoicism because of the rooms, and Stoicism has played a huge part of my recovery. I read some meditations called the Daily Stoic every day. So, and I would say the biggest takeaways are accountability. That's having an honest conversation and holding yourself accountable. And living purposeful, which is these are two things. I say these and I don't want to come across as if I've mastered those, because both those things are things I try and strive for on a regular basis. And then I would tell people that the process is not linear. Like it is 2 steps forward for me, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, but always trying to head in the same direction. My sponsor, is a friend of mine as well. We knew him through. I didn't know he was in the program, but I swear I can spot my own. I mean, I can talk to a group of people and go, oh yeah. I mean, I got a party back in the day. I can see it, and I can see it in this guy. And I said to him, hey, I'm trying to get into shape. I'm trying to cut out some drinking. I said, do you drink? Sober for 14 years. I said, oh man, I had a feeling. I said, I'd really like to talk to you more about it. And the very next day, I got a text at 5:30 in the morning. And I've continued to get a text every single day for a year and a half from this man. And he's heavy into the program. He's heavy into 12-step. And so it's usually something from one of the books. And that was a sense of just care and love from another man that I hadn't really experienced in my adult life. And it was something I really will always think fondly of. But at the same time, he goes all the time, and it's a slippery slope. I don't want to feel like I'm letting him down, but I know it's my own path on how I go about this whole process. I appreciate he does it, but I'm rambling on. I'm going to say accountability is going to be the key factor for me. Is out of everything at honest count yourself.
You kind of cut out there just for a second. So when you talk about accountability, do you what is more important? Is it your own personal accountability, or is it accountability with somebody else? Because I know that's part of the sponsorship idea, right? What do you think?
It's for me, it's for myself.
Okay.
I think even my sponsor would agree with that. Like we don't talk. We talk by text. We talk every once in a while on the phone. It's not that daily thing that some people in the program, they talk to their sponsor 1, 2, 3 times a day. But at the end of the day, if I'm not, this is me. This is me cleaning my side of the street up. If I need to be on the phone with somebody 3 times a day, then I need to maybe reevaluate how I'm doing things, or maybe that's that person. That's certainly not. That came across wrong. If that's what that person needs, that's great.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not what I've needed.
Okay, Bobby, what's your 1 or 2 main ideas of all the programs that are consistent for someone to do well with sobriety?
This is only what I've observed and become aware of throughout the years. I believe there's a common thread that runs through them all. And it depends on really, like if you're in a program, it depends on how long you're in a program, and if you're honest, open-minded, and willing to open up the box and go outside of the box. Because when we don't go outside of the box, what's happening is that we're just hearing from the same mantra, the same dogmatic repetition. And what I found out is what we all have in common is us. I'll go back to it every time that it comes from us. I believe the higher power is the higher self. And I believe when we go seek knowledge and we seek understanding and we go seek other people and go outside of the box, outside of the realm, our consciousness starts to open up, and we have this thirst. We get this thirst for information. And then I'm able to, after I get all this information from a little here, a little bit here, a little bit there, I'm able to kind of sort out when, you know what, that don't work a little bit here, a little piece of that, but you know what, the rest of I'll take some of that. But I believe the power of choice. I believe we are powerful. I'm not powerless. It takes me, unless I'm not dogmatic. I was raised Catholic, so I know what religion is. Okay, I know what religion is, and I know what religion is not. I'm aware of it. Okay, I was born an atheist. My mom gave me Catholicism. I mean, she gave me her Catholic. She said, "Here, you're a Catholic." So I went to Catholic and I did all the rituals. I mean, all the rituals, all the dogmas. Okay, so if I was to encourage anyone, I would say check other things out. It doesn't have to take away from your already thing that you're doing. But if somebody's telling you not to check other things out, somebody's afraid that you might find some knowledge that they don't want you to have. You know, I believe that we all have that in common. And responsibility, I drank and used to run away from responsibility. Today, I'm responsible for my speech, my thought, my actions, what I say, believe. You know, I mean, like JT said, I'm not perfect. I never will be, and I don't really want to try to be perfect. But I'm learning so much from all other avenues, and I'm not a fanatic. I don't believe in fanaticism, so I'm not. And I believe that I have to unlearn certain things, and that's not just with AA and any program. It's not with just a program. I have to unlearn and learn things about government, about the world, about the universe, about politics. I'm unlearning and learning a bunch of things. So when I talk about deprogramming, I'm deprogramming myself from a lot of bullshit, okay, that's been taught to me and brainwashed in my head. So it's not just program. I believe we all create our own program, no matter what the hell we say. We're all doing it our own way. You know, we're going to take a little bit of this, but sooner or later, we're all going to get tired. If we're growing, we're all going to get tired of listening to one person. We're going to have to get some more information. I went from, let's see, in the beginning, when I got sober, I went from Anthony Robbins, Wayne Dyer. This is 36 years ago. And then I went, you know, I started The Secret, and then I started Christy Murdy, and then I started Eckhart Tolle, and then I got into all kinds of other different things, OSHA, and you know, I just love it, you know, and I love it. And I found out that no one's got the answer. No one's got it, you know, or they all have it. I don't, you know, either we don't all have it or we don't have it. But all I know is I'm gonna, next month, next year, when you talk to me again, I'm gonna be even different. I'm gonna even learn more. So I'm evolving.
Yeah, I like that term, Bobby, for sobriety. I've never really thought about it too much, but evolving is true, right? I mean, we got to evolve with ourselves, and we got to evolve with the times, right, in our lives, and you know, because as we grow up as as people, we change too, right? So I like the idea of evolving for this. For me, you know, I've put a lot of thought into this lately because I'm actually starting to kind of work on some workshops and working with some people individually, and I keep coming back to, like, what is the one thing? You know, what is the most important piece? And when I look back at my experience and how things kind of went down for me, I think the one piece that I would have to push, it is very similar to what you said, Bobby, is the idea of choice. Because it's not just choosing, hey, I need to quit, or hey, I need to cut back, or I need to moderate, or I need to do these things. Like, anytime we put that need in there, I feel like we take away some of that choice, right? Because that's coming from somewhere else. I tried with nicotine. I did it for my partner at one point. That didn't work very well. You know, at one point I did it for my son, and none of those really stuck. And same with alcohol, you know. But it was that this time, the choice was mine, 100% mine, and I knew it. And I knew it going into it. And even though I kind of armed myself with some other things, like going to therapy and some literature and, you know, that kind of a deal, the choice piece was, I knew I was ready to do it. And I think until we make that choice, I don't care how much you think you want to do it or think you need to do it or what reasons are behind it. I think that it just opens a door for slipping, you know, and that's, you know, like, again, that's my experience. And so trying to figure out, how can we educate ourselves to the point of knowing without a doubt that we're ready, I think is really the key, you know, for me going into recovery. So then on the flip side of that, you know, we got to look at the opposite, right? So we need these things. We need accountability. We need choice. We need individual, you know, programs. But what is the thing that doesn't work? What is something you've seen out there? You know, and they may not be in all the programs, but I know there's definitely some consistencies in some things that I think are harmful when you're looking at sobriety, or maybe even talking to somebody who's thinking about sobriety. You know, I have one specific one in mind that drives me crazy. Is there anything that you guys have come across that you feel is something we need to remove? You know, take away the stigma, take away the power of when you go into sobriety. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I'm not sure if this falls in line with it. When I first made decided that this is the road I want to go down. I didn't talk about it at work very much at all. Well, I didn't talk about it at work at all. But I would still go out and stuff after work, and people could see that I wasn't drinking. And when they saw that this wasn't just a week or a month thing, like this was a path that I was set on, they stopped at that point, kind of clowning me. And individually, people would come up and say, "Hey, I'm struggling a little bit." And at this point, they don't know I'm going to meetings, and I would go. They go, "Well, explain to me why you stopped. What was the reason?" I would start breaking it down. I go, "Look, I'm compromising myself as the man I thought I was, because I was. My like poor decision making. It's just a lot of reasons. If I come from a long family of this, so you have an idea of you want to change, right? You don't want to be the same thing that everyone in your family, especially if you look down on that. So I'm making this change with the job I have. If I got in trouble, I'd lose. If I got a DUI, I lose my job. And if I lose my job, then I'm not providing for my family, which is these are the core things that I consider myself when I think of myself as a man. It didn't have to be my fault. I could have gotten rear-ended from somebody, and all the repercussions. And that's why I named the podcast "Consequence of Habit." The consequences were severe, and I'd break it down with somebody at work, and I would say, so after all of this, I made the decision and I entered a program. They go, "Oh my God, you're in a program? Dude, I didn't know it was that bad." I'm like,
Wow.
Dude, did you just hear the past 10 minutes? and during that entire conversation, you were nodding in agreement because it's your reality too. So the biggest stigma for me is, it is one of the most proud things in my entire life is to overcome something that has been a generational problem as far back as I know. Yet a lot of people look at somebody help as there's a stigma behind it. It's a weakness. You couldn't stop? Like, what's your problem? So that would probably be, as far as the programs, I think almost like Bobby's saying, it's I'm not near as well versed as you are, Bobby, but I will say that you are held to a certain guideline, and there's not a lot of deviation. There's some militant people inside in programs, and that may work for some people. But hey, man, I was in the military. I don't need you. Like, I can handle myself. Help me be a better version of myself. But at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to be held accountable. So, but that's all.
I think that was perfect, JT. One of my favorite quotes that really got me going in this direction was from the book This Naked Mind, and it said, "Alcohol is the only drug you have to make an excuse not to do." And I think that falls in line kind of with what you were saying.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Bobby, what do you got?
Well, I just want to clarify something, not clarify, but just to mention about this sponsorship stuff. Like I said, Bobby C, a friend in Recovery and Beyond. That first sponsor that came into my house, there was this guy, my wife was going to Al-Anon, and they called a bottom. I was done because I didn't want to lose my family. Okay, it was consequence. I like that, consequence of my behavior. Consequences of my habit got my ass on fire, got my ass burning. And guess what? She was going to Al-Anon. She sent one day, she said, "I have a friend and her husband would come and talk to you." He came in my house. He walked in my house. He was a tall, bearded, dope shooting, heroin addict, Jack Daniels drinking, pharmacy robbing, construction dude. Comes walking in my house, sat at my table. I thought it was Jesus Christ himself sitting down there, and he was going to help me. Right? And guess what? 36 years ago, this guy is still my friend. 36 years ago is still my friend. There's been times that I didn't see him for 6 years. 7 years. Okay, because I had a couple other sponsors. But today I talk to him. I call him up. Hey, Lonnie, what's going on? He's back in the program and he's doing really great. And he's a friend of mine, you know. So I like that friendship thing in anything. I believe the more friends we have, you know, I mean, look, somebody told me if you die with 5 of them, you're a lucky man. I don't think I'm going to get 5. Okay, I'm talking true friends, and so it's all good. I like what JT. I like what you say, John, and you know, I'm just here to. I'm learning from you guys. You know, you guys are showing me and validating some of the things that I believe in. Everyone's going to learn on their own time. I might be able to put some seeds out, just like JT will go to a meeting and put some seeds out, and we never know if they're going to sprout. And it's not our job to figure out who picks up the seeds or not. You know, it's so I'm going to plant a couple seeds, and maybe somebody will catch a seed, and maybe they won't. But that's about it right now, John. I'll get back to you.
Okay. So I'm going to probably get on a little bit of a soapbox here, but and I am going to preface it with saying that I know that there are some severe issues with, you know, being in recovery for some people and the idea of relapsing. And, you know, obviously I think everybody knows somebody or has heard about somebody who relapsed and died. So I don't want to make light of that at all. But I do want to say that I really struggle with the idea of relapse and the stigma that goes along with that. And because I'm talking to a lot of different people. I have my Facebook group now, and I do a lot of stuff with, you know, Twitter and Instagram, and talking to a lot of people individually. And this idea that, you know, someone can put in 30 days or, you know, 6 months or 3 years and then, you know, slip and feel like they've lost everything. To me, I just struggle with it. You know, I think the way I look at that is like, let's think about, so JT, you talked about getting in shape, right? Mm-hmm. You know, let's say we just say, hey, I'm going to get myself in shape and I'm going to train to do a marathon, you know? And so, hey, you line it out and you decide, hey, I have to run this many miles every day or whatever for X amount of days. And to get to the place where I can do that and make that goal, right? So you get on the track and you're doing your training, you're doing really well, everything's going great, but then something happens, you know, and you go away for the weekend and you just didn't have the energy or you forgot your shoes or whatever, and you quit training for 2 or 3 or 4 days, right? Yeah. How much of that training did you lose? It's very little, right? And I kind of liken that to this idea that, you know, why do we have to say that when someone slips up for one day that they've lost everything? Because to me, you gain so much, even in that first day that you quit, or that first week, or that first month, and you learn things about yourself, right? And each time you learn something, you're going to take that with you next time. And so I feel like, you know, if you've gone 6 months and you make a slip, yeah, I mean, that sucks. It doesn't feel good. You're going to be disappointed in yourself. I understand all that. But why are we, you know, people like I've seen people actually be negative towards people who slipped. And I just don't understand that stigma at all. So to me, if I was to think about any of these, you know, programs across the board, and it's not across the board, but you understand what I'm saying, that this idea of, you know, I don't even like the word relapse, to be honest with you. Isn't that more about cancer and, you know, that kind of thing? I'd like to find another word for it. You know what I mean? Something that doesn't make you feel like, why bother? I screwed up. Why do I want to go through that again? I'm not going to do it again. And then just quit for good, you know? So that's my one thing that I really don't like from all the different programs and things I've heard is this idea of relapse and these day counters. And, you know, I've lost track of mine. You know, I kept track of them for the first 101 days when I was doing my 101 days of sobriety blog. But after that, I don't know where I'm at anymore. And I'm happy that I don't know where I'm at. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. It goes back to what Bobby said, you know, it's like, we're just in here. We're now. I'm sober now. I've been sober for a while up to now, but right now, and this is where I'm at. I like it that way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just from my own experience, and I can't, you know, like you said, this is a very individual thing, but if I hear of somebody that does, or they've come to me and said, hey, I slipped up, and man, I'd say the biggest thing I feel is sympathy, compassion, because all I can do is put myself in their shoes, and I know what I've put into this, and I know how important it is to me, and I've said to myself, hey, this for me, it's just something I can't do. I don't want this to be part of my life. Alcohol for me doesn't have a part of my life. And if I were to make if I were to relapse, I just know how that would affect me. And I'm not talking about, of course, it would be disappointing to a bunch of other people, because once you draw the line in the sand and say, hey, I'm telling you, I have a problem. They'll say it in the rooms all the time. You can never go back and it will be the same. You can't go, hey, I have a problem, and then you go drink, and it will always be a cloud over you. And I believe that. But I can speak for a lot of people because I've heard them say it. I mean, I've woken up in tears because I've dreamt about it. I mean, drinking dreams are a really normal thing for people when they first start.
For sure.
And I just think of what they must have felt like that next day. And man, that is some heavy stuff. So, and I don't know, I don't know if there's a shelf life on that after so many times. We're all human, and at some point I'd be like, hey man, I think you're doing something wrong. But who am I to say? Who am I to say? I just know for me, I would be very upset the next morning. So.
Yeah, I get that for sure. Bobby, you had any experience about that? The idea of relapse and how that affects people? And
well, you know me, John, because we've had many discussions. JT is, I'm new with JT, so I'm going kind of light. Okay, I'm behaving. Okay, because I can be very controversial, and I outspoken in meetings. Here's one thing: I can break my anonymity here. I'll never do it to somebody else. Okay, I have a freedom to break my own anonymity. Okay. One day, John and I, and if you want to join in, I'll do a whole show on just labels. Just labels. Okay. Me personally, do away with labels. I do away with anonymity. Without labels, I need no anonymity. I believe, well, like Smart Recovery doesn't believe in the same thing with relapse than Alcoholics Anonymous does. Life Ring's a little different too. And the Freedom Model completely, they don't believe in the disease concept, and neither do I. So, I mean, there's a lot I grew out of, I evolved out of this. Relapse, look, you want to use a different word, John? How about drunk? Hey, I took a drink. Oh, you took a drink? Oh, okay. Are you drinking now? No, I'm not drinking now. Well, good. You're not drinking now. I mean, what's the big deal? I mean, okay, if the guy dies, that's a big deal. And I used to always go into the rooms and say, you got a crystal ball. People, when they talk, there's a crystal ball. Look into it. You may see your future. Okay. So I don't make light of relapse. And John said it earlier. I don't make light of relapse because many people die through alcoholism, but many people die through cancer, drug addicts, car crashes, and all that other stuff too. Okay. So we're not so unique. People die of alcoholism. And well, it's the deadliest drug in the world. Alcohol, look it up. It's the deadliest drug in the world. It's a poison, carcinogen, and it's bad shit. So if somebody relapses, what they did was drink. Okay, how many times did I promise my wife that I was going to stop drinking? Thousands. And I drank. But guess what? I didn't have no knowledge of anything else. I didn't want it. I didn't want to stop. But even if I didn't want to stop, I didn't have anybody like giving me some knowledge, some seeds, some plants, some, hey, Bobby, check this out, blah, blah, blah. I didn't have that. So I didn't have any other information. But 36 years ago, there wasn't any other programs around, okay? I know a lot about the history, way before even Alcoholics Anonymous. I've studied this shit and I still research it. Okay, so 36 years ago, there was no other choices. You had church or you had AA. You had the Oxford group or you had AA. There was only two, right? And they were both Christian. They're both Christian based. If you don't have a question about it, they're both Christian based. They're not spiritual, they're Christian based. Okay. So I had two choices. One to go to church or one to go to AA. AA was the cool place to go. You kidding me? I could smoke there, I could curse, I could be in there and be loud. I used to see crazy people coming, bikers and girls, this and that. What was I going to choose? Go to church? Hell no, I was going to AA. Well, that was the only choice. Back today, people might say, hey, Bobby, you're bashing AA. Don't bash AA because you may kill somebody. Well, that's bullshit because you know why? There's too many options today. Too many places to go. There's so many different programs and so many different places to go. It's your choice. If you don't want to get clean and sober, that's your that's not my deal. That's your decision, not my decision. You know, so relapse, it's a word that was coined years ago by the recovery industry. You know, treatment centers, or it's just a big circle and you come in and out. And where do they send you? You go in, you pay thousands of dollars to treatment center. Where do they send you? Now they're sitting there, they're giving you a choice. They're giving you Smart Recovery, Right Life Ring, and others. But where did they send you before? Alcoholics Anonymous, they sent you. So today's there are many choices, and it's not the same. It's not the same deal. If I'm in a meeting, I'm not going. I stopped going to AA meetings. I don't go to AA meetings anymore. But if I went to an AA meeting, when I used to go to AA meetings, I never trashed the program. What I would do is, I didn't talk about the steps or the big book. I talked about life, and I tried to show people that this program is an ancient philosophy. It's all copied. It's not something. Bill Wilson took a little bit of this, a little bit of that. He did just what we're doing. Exact same thing, you know. And that's enough out of me. Someday we'll talk about labels, and I'll show how the elimination of labels will eliminate the anonymity, because sooner or later we're going to come to the realization that we're not unique. There's people that stop eating peanuts because they'll die. That's more dangerous than alcohol, okay? There's people that stop eating, they go vegan. They don't eat meats. They stop using drugs. How about the people that stop smoking? Do they every day live one day at a time and go to Smokers Anonymous? No. So I can go on and on and on. And I'm not here to discourage anybody in their program. The fellowship is a beautiful thing. Just, this is what I tell people. Not tell them. This is what I suggest. Think, question, observe, and become aware, and more will be revealed. You know? And your sponsor, I believe 100% JT's sponsor is a very wise man. You know? And I would never try to dismiss that or discount that. I know your sponsor, you probably have a lot of respect for him, and I would never want to take that away from anybody. So I admire the men that allow people to experience an open-minded consciousness where they could do with their own thing, but still love them and still care about them and still understand them. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off. The funny thing is that, so I started getting into Stoicism, which if you look at a lot of the stuff from AA, you'll see it's been pulled I mean, almost directly at some point. I mean, even to the 12-step program. But so he'll send me a page from the big book, and I'll send him a page from meditations and we both get something from it. We both, I mean, and that's what's great about it is you're right, man. No one has a corner on personal growth. They don't, it's not monopolized. Like, there's a lot out there. There's a ton of information and a ton to learn from. And a lot of it really is coming down to being aware, it's figuring out what's going on in your head and not just being along for the ride. You know what I mean? Like you'll start to see, without a whole lot of examination, the reasoning behind a lot of your own actions. But you don't have to dig crazy deep, and there's a lot of ways to do that. And AA for a lot of people has been one, and there's a ton others for other people. So I like that idea of, and look around, see what else is out there, because it's not all or nothing. You know?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the key term in that whole segment, I believe, was being aware. You know, I think, and it's not just being aware of your surroundings, it's being aware of yourself too, right? I know that was one of the things that helped me the most, was being aware of alcohol as a society, is where I've been kind of calling it, you know, and how we treat it as a community, as a society, how we revere it and how we look up to it and how we, you know, almost idolize it. And that was one of the big ones that really got me, was just being aware of that fact. It started to piss me off, you know, I'm like, I don't want any part of that. And so that was a big help for me too. So I think we're coming up on time here, guys. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting about this. I think we could probably go on for a long time if we let ourselves, but we'll keep this one, you know, at this point. And, but hey, I'm open to do this anytime. If you guys want to come back, we can come up with maybe a more specific topic, but it's the first time Bobby and I had someone new come on, and thank you, JT, for being that person. And, you know, seeing how that kind of conversation goes. And I think I'd like to do more of that if you guys are open to it.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate the invite. I enjoy talking about it, and look forward to some more.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
All right. So don't forget, you can find Consequence of Habit on, I've seen you on Twitter and on Instagram. You said a little bit on Facebook, Xstep Writing on all the platforms, and Bobby C, you can find him under Anonymous Addiction. And thank you guys again. I appreciate it. We'll talk a little bit more. Hope everybody's doing really well. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.